Okay, Stovies. Another great dish from Bonnie, Scotland. Stovies is one of those recipes where there are as many recipes for it as there are families. And if you ask 1,000 Scots people how they cook Stovies, you might get 1,000 different answers. But they're all generally along a theme. You take a little meat, or whatever meat you've got hanging around doing nothing, whatever you've got left in your fridge after the weekend, and you turn it into a big all-in stew. So it's a great one-pot meal. So in order to inject a bit of flavour into it, you need extra flavourings. So the meat I've got available for this is about 250 grams of mince, and I've got a couple of sausages which I want to use up before they go stale, and I've got just a fairly thick rasher of bacon which I'm just going to chop up fine. To inject a little extra flavour into it, I've got some garlic, I've got some butter, I've got some beef dripping. You can use lard as well, or you can just use more butter. I've got some onion, so that's about a good sized medium onion chopped up. And I've got some vegetables. Typical vegetables used in Scottish meals are turnip. This is a swede or rutabaga. In Scotland it'll be called a turnip or a neep. And I've got some carrots as well. Right, I've got to say a thank you to my friend Farley Hill, who mentioned in the comments in a previous video about my sound quality in here. What I've done is I've actually worked on that. So I've mounted a camera mic, and I've also added a lot of acoustic panels in places where they can fit around my kitchen. I'm afraid this is as good as it's ever going to get. I don't have a sound studio, but without investing huge amounts of money, which I don't have, in microphones and gear, I think this is about as good as we're going to get it. So thanks, Farley, thanks for your comment. Constructive comments I will field well, and I do want constructive comments. Also, the same with the cooking. You know, like I said, there's 1,000 families, you get 1,000 different answers on how to cook Stovies. Get in the comments and tell me how you cook it, but please don't get in and tell me how I should cook it, because this is my recipe. Okay, I think we can get on and do this. It's a great one-pot meal, so we'll start with the pot, eh? Okay, I think I forgot to mention the spuds. In fact, I did forget to mention the spuds. What I've got here is 2 large baking potatoes which I've peeled and chopped into these large pieces like that, and I've just left them soaking in some water and a little splash of vinegar just to stop them from browning, but I will drain those again before I use them. So now we're waiting for the heat to come up in the pan, and meanwhile just off camera I'll chop up my bacon and my sausage. Okay, into my hot pan goes a couple of teaspoons of beef dripping. Gives a great flavour. And as far as the meat is concerned, you can use just about anything you have spare meat. It was traditionally made with the leftover meat from a Sunday roast, but I've even heard of people using canned corned beef to do it. In goes all my butter. So plenty of butter. Swirl that around. Give it a swirl. And into the pan first goes the onion, and I want to sweat those down now. So I don't want to get them burnt, but I just want to cook them down until they start to brown a little bit. Cooking the onions this way draws out all the sweetness from the onions and adds a lovely umami flavour to the whole dish. So it's an important step, and don't rush it. Don't just chuck the onions in and then throw everything else on top. It just doesn't work that way. If you want it to taste really good, you've got to extract the best you can out of each ingredient you put in there. Wonderful one pot meal, total comfort food. Okay, it's not the prettiest food on earth, but neither is curry. Now my onions are kind of translucent and just starting to brown, I'm going to go in with my sausage and my bacon. I just added the bacon for an extra bit of flavour. Plus it was an odd rasher I'd left, so that's going in there. And the sausages, I didn't skin them, I just chopped them up and threw them in. Fantastic smell coming from that right now. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, great turn on that now. All that flavour getting into that butter and dripping. Superb. Right, now I can put in my carrots and neeps. And again, I'm frying them off a little bit just to extract some of the sugars. So keep that turning, still over high heat. I love this dish. It is so typical of good Scottish food. It's unpretentious, filling, it's delicious, and it's versatile. You know, you can use what vegetables you like. If you've got a bit of leftover cabbage, or if you've got some Brussels sprouts left over, chuck them in. You know, it just make it your own. And that's what people have done over the centuries. You know, it's, this dish has probably been around in Scotland as long as potatoes have, and they came over from the New World in what, the 16th century. The things that need to be in it are any kind of meat, onions and potatoes. Everything else is optional. That's great. I'm getting a carroty smell coming off that now. Right, okay. Into that now I'm putting my 2 cloves of garlic and the meat. So that's the mince. The mince is going in. And that's, like I said, about 250 grams of meat. So a little meat goes a long, long way in this dish. As you'll see in the end, we get a huge, huge amount of food from just a little amount of meat. So what you're actually doing by frying off these small amounts of meat with the aromatics is you're creating a little flavour bomb inside there, yeah? You're building it up, and then you extend that outwards constantly. It's going out into the vegetables now, and then it'll eventually go into the potatoes. The only other item you're going to need, boys and girls, is a couple of stock cubes, and again, you can use what you have or what you like, or just about, I would say, start off with about half a litre, perhaps 24 fluid ounces of some sort of stock or bouillon. The best one to use with this would probably be beef, seeing as there's a lot of mince in it. But if you're putting in leftover chicken or something like that, you can put a chicken stock cube in it. So I'll keep that going, let that brown a little longer. So now you see it's frying a little more aggressively. So at this time, I think we can introduce the potatoes into there. And they all go in. Like I said, it's a 1 pot meal. And I made up my stock out of 2 stock cubes, and because I got sausage in there, I used one beef stock cube and 1 chicken stock cube. So I've mixed it up with 400 mils of hot water, which is about 1 3/4 cups. And I'm just going to top that off a little bit, up to about the level of the potatoes, with hot water. Now you can see from that amount it turns into a big stew, it turns into a big delicious soup. So we need to cook that now. Turn the heat down to about 2/3 of your heat range, so it goes down to a fast simmer, and then we can simmer that. I simmer that open and stirring every now and again, and come back and give it a stir. And you'll see towards the end what happens is the potatoes start to break up and everything starts to thicken. So bring that to up to a boil, and then turn it down to a fairly fast simmer for as long as it takes, really. It's going to be about 30-40 minutes. Just let it go, just keep stirring it to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. Stir it every few minutes. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you want to help me out with the donation, there's donation links below to PayPal, Subscribestar and Buy Me a Coffee. Meanwhile, the thumbs up and your comments below help a lot. Thanks ever so much. Thanks in advance. Alright, after a few minutes you'll see the potatoes start to break up, and then you can give them a stir, and the more you stir them, the more they're breaking up. The more they're breaking up, the more your stovies will thicken. At this stage we give it the taste test. Oh, that's pretty good already. That is pretty good. But I like to add in a bit of pepper, and white pepper goes really well with this. Putting in 1/4 teaspoon, and because it's me, I'm putting in another 1/4 teaspoon. You put in as much as you like. And as I did with my mince and tatties, I'm going to add just a couple of teaspoonfuls of gravy granules, and I'm using beef flavoured gravy granules. 1, 2, that'll add a bit of thickening and plenty of seasoning. Get that all stirred in. It also adds a bit of colour, the gravy granules, which I think makes it look a bit more appetising. So we'll give that a stir. And you can mash 1 or 2 potatoes against the side of the pot to help it thicken up. And I like it to be mashed up really nice and quite thick. Right. So once you've got to that stage where you like the thickness and the consistency, turn your heat off, put the lid on it, and sit there for 10 minutes before you serve it up. So that's stood for about 10 minutes, and I chopped up a couple of spring onions which make a fabulous garnish for this, and I'm just going to chuck half of them in there and stir them in, and then I'm going to serve myself a bowl of that, and then save the other half of the spring onions just as a garnish. Trust me on the spring onions, it's a winner. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I'm here to thank Mike and Nancy Abel, Bradley Bennett and Mr. Paul for their generous help in the making of this video. Thank you very much. So let's serve this up. It might not be the prettiest dish on earth, but I tell you, it's comfort food. And then just sprinkle a few spring onions over the top just before serving. And then the only thing else you'll need is a spoon. Time for a taste test. Alright, taste test. Just as good as I remember it. Full of flavour. It's a bit of sausage. Superb comfort food. Very, very addictive. Rather pleased with that.